Good day, good morning, good afternoon. We want to welcome each and every one of you to our Global Chamber Young Global Leader Initiatives. Today, we have the honor of having one of our deputy directors from Atlanta Global Chamber to speak on financial literacy. What I love about this is that you're going to have an opportunity to chat, to ask questions, and to hopefully gain some new information that we can apply personally in our businesses as well. My name is Dana Austin. I'm the Executive Director for Global Chamber Atlanta. Ecstatic to have you on. I want to just let you know that we have in our Global Chamber circle 525 metros and growing around the world, around this beautiful globe. And so Atlanta is presenting this month. And then we also have online our Vice President for Global Chamber, which is Cesar Trabanco. I'd like to have him say a few words before we actually get into the meat and potatoes or the arroz con pollo of it all.
Thank you very much, Dana, and thanks everyone who's joining us today. Special Eric and Necole for putting this together along with Dana. So I just wanted to mention a little bit about the program. The Young Global Leadership Initiative it started in February, so this is the third session, and the idea is to pick hot topics for young global leaders that they're interested in. And so we're going to have speakers from different part of the world. So last month, it was from our India Ahmedabad chapter, and today is with our Atlanta chapter. The first one was with London. So bringing different people, different perspective, at the same time where you are able to network as a young professional. It allows you to start networking with professionals around the world, and that's why I invite all of you to put your contact information in the chat. Put your LinkedIn, your email, and start connect. I'm gonna make sure to send you for those that are new to the program. I'm gonna send in the chat a link about the program and the form to be completed, and that's it. I think the idea is that at the end of the year we complete 10 sessions, and we're going to have like a celebration session in December. So thanks again, Dana, and back to you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Cesar. And yes, thank you for acknowledging both of our deputy directors from Atlanta on. We have Necole Floyd Turner on. We also have Eric Dunlap, who is our presenter this morning that I will be facilitating. But I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge our interns. So we have some young global leaders on in that capacity that have just joined us as of last week. I want to acknowledge you. I won't call you out by name because I don't want you to feel like we're doing that, but welcome, welcome, welcome. And so I have the pleasure of introducing to you today our speaker, Eric Dunlap of Dunlap Speaks. I've known Eric and over the years, and we are friends, business partners, colleagues, prayer warriors. He is an incredible guy by his own right, business-wise, family-wise, and in the community. His background is strongly in banking and mortgage. He is your go-to guy for that. He also is an incredible speaker and motivator. So he speaks along that line, and he is a survivor of breast cancer, which is a topic that really opened the avenue for him to talk and to allow you to know that even men can be affected by breast cancer, but most of all, to take care of your vessel. So he's coming to us today with some incredible jewels, nuggets around financial wellness. Welcome, Eric. Happy to have you.
Thank you so much, Dana, and thank you for a wonderful introduction. Truly appreciate that, and really love our friendship and our partnership and sharing of information. And I think you and I share the same vision about wellness, about life, about how to try to make things better in our circles, and most importantly, broaden our circles. And that's where the Global Chamber has been instrumental in connecting people around the world in areas that they wish to grow, learn, and develop in areas that maybe they didn't realize that there was other components or other people that could help them on their journey. So here today, I wanted to share a few things with you guys about financial wellness and really financial literacy. We hear financial literacy talked about, but we don't necessarily hear some of the meat and potatoes of it. So we'll give a basic overview of some of the key things in financial literacy and some of the practices that you may be able to deploy that will be helpful as you go along your journeys in life, preparing for different phases of life, and how important it is to have a financial perspective as you go forward. With that being said, I wanted to just go ahead and get into the slides. So first, I want to make sure that everyone can see the PowerPoint presentation that's before you. It should say financial wellness, and hopefully everyone can see that. And then secondly, just to, again, give everybody a warm welcome and appreciation, because I know you had something else on your agenda that you could have been doing, but you chose to be here today. So with that being said, I want to make sure that I cap this off with a big thank you. So with that, we're going to prepare you to go forward and want to see what is really important. And so I'll start into the presentation. Similar to maintaining physical strength or physical health, financial wellness is truly an exercise. And what happens too often is that with technology, we're able to make payments by phone, by card, and these things happen. So a lot of times things are out of sight, out of mind, but we have to get on a place where we say, look, if I want to be in good shape, if you wanted to exercise and maintain good health, you would start a regimen. You would start maybe lifting weights, maybe it's taking walks, maybe it's running, but those exercises are helping you in multiple ways. They're helping you to develop in areas that you can probably not think about as often, but if you visit them on a consistent basis, that's how you build strength. And financial strength is the same strength that you get from lifting weights or exercising. You get stronger. The more you know, the more you grow. And we want to use that mantra to keep going forward. So we're going to just talk about a couple of things, and I want you to think about things that we'll get into a little bit of an interactive part as we go further along in the presentation. But what we look at is how many of you know, and I want you to think about this, know exactly where every dollar is going every week, month, every year in your budget. And so we'll look at a few things, talk about some budgeting tools, some budgeting practices, managing your overall expenses, how do you increase your savings, and setting goals, because the goals are really the driver. We'll also touch on credit, and then we'll do a wrap up with some Q&A. So what does it really mean to budget? Well, I'll tell you, in a very simple term or a very simple phrase, is really just knowing what you have coming in and what you're going out. So it's a very simple, when you think about it, what is a budget? Well, I need to know how much money do I have, how much money do I make, and where am I placing those funds? And am I using my funds in the best practical way? So really a budget is an estimated calculation plan based on your income and expenses for a set period of time. So you can do an annual budget, you can do a monthly budget, you can do a weekly budget, but all of them are keying in on one thing: managing your money. And if you know where your money is, know how you're spending your money, you have to have a plan to account for that. And what happens is, because we are in the electronic society, electronic world, digital completely, you can pay every bill, almost every bill, online. And banks have realized this, credit card companies have realized this, merchants have realized this, but we have to realize when we're spending money, if we swipe our card, do we know what the balance is in our account? Sometimes the charges will be immediate and will immediately be dropped from your account. Sometimes there's a delay, maybe a day or two. So it really depends on where you are, what you're spending, and where you're spending it. They're budgeting tools, and budgeting tools can really be helpful to minimize the guesswork of where am I spending money. And one of the challenges that I will do is that everyone that attends, I will send you a budget, a basic just spreadsheet that you can fill in the numbers on, but we'll also talk about some of the other things that are very helpful. In today's world, your cell phone has now become not just a phone for conversation, of course, and texting, but it's also a tool for finance. And with that, apps have been developed to help you know exactly what you're spending, where you're spending it, and also set goals and hold yourself accountable to those. So we'll talk about those because that helps you move along in a very easy pace. And you can also think of it from this vantage point. If you take 15 minutes a week, well, let's say 20, that's 5 minutes a day in a 5-day work week, and just glance at your finances to make sure you're on track. Make sure that your account balance is what you anticipated it being at this point. And that prevents you from having things like overdrafts on an account. So we'll get a little further in at this point. So the first thing about a budget is defining your expenses. The only way you can really be effective is to know all of your expenses, whether it be gas, which is sometimes rising in price as with everything else, and your overall household expenses. The vehicle, do you have a loan payment on it? Insurance, groceries, dining out, entertainment, mortgage if you have one, or rent. And there are other payments that you're making or things that you're purchasing. But you need to know and anticipate what may happen for worst case scenario. And I always say save for the rainy day. We all know it's going to rain at some point, so we need to have some funds set aside for that. And you want to have things that you know or you're anticipating coming down the road that you know about that are coming. Oh, I've got to pay my homeowners association, or I have to pay my dues for some group or something that I'm working in. The main thing is to really take a look at what do you have and what are your plans? What are your goals? And are your purchases or your saving patterns aligning with those? You need to take, for example, look at your last 30 days and see what your purchases were, because that's going to probably be a good representation of what you're spending on a monthly basis. So if you aligned every item that you're spending, credit cards, debit cards, everything, and see what's happening. You have some things that are being automatically deducted out of your bank account each month. If you've allowed for that, you need to account for that as well. So it's looking at the bank statements, the credit cards, purchases, and debit card purchases. And I'm going to hone on the credit card purchases for a quick moment. Many of us do not receive credit card statements by mail. We are receiving all our information by signing in online or by their apps. Make sure that you periodically actually look through the statement, even if it's online. You need to check your interest rates, see if they are increasing. You need to see if they're increasing in your annual fees and things of that nature, but you won't see that if you're just making a payment. And so you've got to take a moment. And again, that can be in your 5 minutes of a day, in a given week, to see what's happening going on. I guarantee you there's more expense than you realize. The one thing I want you to key in on is what is the interest rate you're paying, and could you have a lower one? As I mentioned, budgeting apps, your banking institution or credit union is an excellent source for budgeting apps. Most banks will provide that free of charge so that you can access and properly balance your account and see where everything is. There are also alternative budgeting apps that are very good. Mint is one of them. The Mint app is free, and you can access it through Google Pay and Apple. And the key about looking at Intuit and Mint is that Mint will allow you to also set budgeting goals. So if there's something you want to purchase, whether it be a car, whether it be a home down the road, there are ways to actually plan for that. And when you think about budgeting and savings, the thing is to start. You've got to start somewhere. And why not start today with a simple budget and start looking at, okay, I have a goal. I want to buy a car in X number of months, or I'm going to need to buy a car. Sometimes we buy a car not because we want to, but because our old car has decided it's had its days and no longer going to work for us. So with that, you want to make sure that you're looking and planning. And if you're saving, when you buy a car, you really want to have a down payment. So again, that can be one of your budgeting goals. Well, let me see if I can put down $5,000. Well, how long will it take for me to accumulate the $5,000 that would help me in the down payment, or 10,000, or whatever the figure is? But again, the key is to start somewhere. Balancing your budget is truly a important thing, because here's the thing. If you look at the end of the month and your account and your bank account is negative, the bank is going to charge you. That's just what banks do. I've worked for banking institutions for a number of years, and banks charge you for overdrafts. So that means that more money is going out than is coming in. And so we have to take a look at what is causing that. What are we doing? And we really want to prevent that from being any type of reoccurrence, because the bank also has a little bit of a negative look that you're not able to manage your funds accordingly. So you want to take the time, again, to know what your expenses are. If you need to do something additional, or if you're having a problem with a creditor, it's time to reach out. Reach out to them, have a conversation, and make a negotiation of what you may be able to remedy. You don't want to stay in the negative. There is nothing advantageous about having a low balance on a credit, on a bank account of any nature. So you want to make sure that they keep you in good light, because a bank could actually terminate services over time if those activities continue. But most importantly, the bank is making additional money and costing you additional money by charging you for overdrafts. But if you're positive, you're on it. You can start right now by, again, initiating. If you don't have a bank account, there's good and bad to that. And I'll say this: the good is that you know where your money is right at that second. The bad is you know where your money is right at that second. And that means that in the event of a fire, in the event of a theft of some sort, the money could be gone and you have nothing to show. Now, banking can go in many different forms. You can bank with a traditional bank. We call it the brick and mortar bank, that you'll see locations around your respective areas. You can bank online. But one of the things you want to do is also consider banking with a credit union. Banks and credit unions are very similar in the nature. They're both banking institutions. The bank is one that will actually has shareholders. The credit union has members. The bank is typically backed by the FDIC, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, excuse me. And then the credit union is backed by NCUA. You guys probably heard over the last few months about some bank failures. And what happens in those cases? Well, if you have $250,000 or more in the, $250,000 or less. So again, that's $250,000 or less. Your funds are insured by the FDIC if it's with a bank. Similar with the NCUA if your funds are with a credit union. So overall, just to give you a little nugget there, the banking system is in good shape. They are going to be examining banks more critically as time goes on, which is probably just something that's due to happen. It always happens. Banks are constantly examined, but the examinations can become a little tighter as time goes on due to some activities that's currently going on in the marketplace. So what does a budget look like? Well, what is your income? And then what are your expenses? It's pretty cut and dry. And I try to keep it in a simplified form and not make it overly complicated. Again, just knowing where you're spending, what you're spending on will surprise you. In the old days, we used to write it all down. And one thing about that is once you saw exactly where things were going, it will be a mind changer for you as far as what you're doing and when you're doing it. Sometimes you don't realize that that cable or that streaming service has elevated or escalated their costs. I'll let one remain nameless, but there was one that you could rent movies on, or I say rent movies, but actually view movies, but they increased their amount of their subscription. And if you were not watching and you had a credit card or a bank account that those funds were coming from, all of a sudden more money is coming out of your account and you're not getting anything additional for it. So you have to weigh what's important. And that's a constant thing. And that's why you're reviewing and making sure that you're aware. One of the reasons that I suggest reviewing your accounts a few times a week is because in the event of some type of compromise, identity theft, or someone has done a takeover and has your banking information, you'll be able to capture it early on. There are time limits for banking institutions for responses. And so anytime that something happens, you want to respond immediately. If you see something that's unusual on a bank statement, or are you looking at it online or on your app, immediately contact the bank to make sure that your account is not compromised. So again, looking at your monthly balance, what is your total income? And you subtract out all of your expenses, and it's either going to be positive or it's going to be negative. And sometimes I can say you're barely positive. What I mean by that is you may be positive by a few dollars. Well, that's always at risk. So that means you probably need to look at possibly reducing some expenses so that you have more money that you're able to place in savings. So how do you reduce costs? Well, one of the big ones, and I'm going to just claim I'm guilty of this, the eating out. Eating out, when you look at it in a pie chart, in many people's accounts or their lives or their budget, it's one of the most expensive items. And so what I tried to do was say, okay, I'm going to allocate a certain amount that I'm going to eat out. Once I get to that budget limit that I preset, then I'm no longer going to eat out. I'll have to cook at home. Also, when you look at things like when you go out to dinner, it's not just paying for the meal. There's tips. If someone decides to drink something other than water, there's cost for that. And the overall cost is higher. So sometimes it's better, even if you're getting it to go, but be careful in getting something to go, because if you are using a delivery service for that, then there's a cost additional added on. So you kind of do away with not paying the tip. So if you're going to get something to go, it's probably better to drive to get it to go, and that will save you something. But overall, you have to look and see how much of your pie, this was a pie graph, how much of that pie is going toward, and the pie representing your income is going toward eating out. Now, grocery bills, that's going to be a fluctuator. It's all because as you go to the grocery store, as you have needs for various items, you're going to see some fluctuation. But again, you may save on the money you were spending going out by just simply going to the grocery store and buying those things and preparing those things. And not to mention that saves you time. And if you think about when I focus on the eating and the eating out, how expensive that is. Many people, if they're working and they're away from home, they're paying for lunch. And if they're paying for dinner as well, then that's a sizable portion of your budget. And then going out on the weekend. So now we start to see where money's being spent. Cancel subscriptions. There are many subscriptions that have auto renew in them that are being deducted from your credit card or your bank account. You want to check and see what is coming out. Are you still using those services? Or is it something you just forgot to kill the subscription? Well, you need to contact that creditor and whoever the entity is that you have that subscription with, and make sure if you do not wish to have it, that you cancel it and follow their cancellation policy. By saying I'm not going to pay it or telling your credit card company not to pay it, that's not actually the policy. The policy typically is you have to notify them, possibly in writing or by email or some type of electronic notification, to cancel, but follow their pathway to ensure that you don't end up causing a credit report issue down the road of something negative. And you have to reduce your impulse purchases. I know sometimes going into a store, you see something and it looks great and you say, I just got to have it. Well, what you want to do is say, is it within my budget? If you're going to have some impulse shopping, is it within my budget? So if you're going to do something of that nature, you have to allocate, I'm going to only spend $100, for example, on impulse shopping. Anything above that, I'm not doing. That's my budget, that's my limit. And that way, when you go to do it, that you're either within it or you're on the outside of it. And that'll curtail some of the impulse type purchases. And you want to leverage sales as well. When you see a sale, make sure it's working to the full extent. If you want to buy an item and there's a price point that you keep working toward that, whether it be some form of coupon or online discount. Look for discounts. Again, you're spending your money, so you want to save it. And then scale back on entertainment. With inflation and everything else, cost of entertainment has gone through the roof. If you go to a concert, I remember years ago, and I'm going to date myself when I say this, that concerts, you could go to a concert for 2 people for $50. That's no longer the case. Many of the well-known acts charge upwards of $100 or close to it per ticket. So again, you have to weigh, if I'm going to have entertainment, again, place a budget line item. I'm going to spend $500 a year, whatever on entertainment as far as certain things. I may spend on sports, whatever the case may be. You have to set the limit. And when you set that limit, you'll see the power of your funds because now you're in control. The main thing about budgeting is managing your expenses so that you're in control. And sometimes we feel like we're out of control, but actually we have more power. The key about reducing expenses is so that you can increase savings. Again, I spoke about the rainy day. So let me give you an example of rainy days. You could live in an apartment or live in a home. Something inevitably is going to break. When I bought my first house, the hot water heater, not when I wanted it to happen, but in the middle of the night. And so having small children at the time, obviously, and a wife as well, we needed to have water to wash clothes, water to wash dishes, water to just drink. And so when the hot water heater went out, if you're not prepared, that can be 1,000, it can be 2,000. It depends on when you're getting a repair done and who you call. But my premise is this: if you have the savings and you're saving for that rainy day, then it's not a harsh impact to your budget. If you look at it from this way, if you had $2,000 in the bank in savings, and all of a sudden the hot water heater is gone and it costs $1,000, well, what's going to happen throughout the month? What's going to happen with other things you may need to do? Your other expenses didn't stop, you just incurred a new one. So if you're saving money, you'll have funds to the side. Again, I mentioned for the rainy day, things can happen, things break unexpectedly. Computers crash. One of my sons was preparing for exams in college, and his computer, with no warning, just crashed on him. And so we were forced to go get a computer basically overnight as he's preparing for an exam. So these things do happen, and you have to have backup plan, and that's where your savings, and that's why reducing the expenses is so important, so you can start saving. Constantly assessing your situation. That's how you first start to look at savings, and then setting realistic goals. When we go further down, I'm going to share some strategies with you, and one that will surprise you. As you look toward setting realistic goals, put that item in front of you. If it's a house, if it's a car, so put the reminder somewhere on your phone that every time that you think about spending, that you consider, is it taking me closer to my goal, or is it placing it further away? So I think you should have monthly goals, quarterly goals, annual goals, and then we start out doing yearly, 2-year plan, 3-year plan, 5-year plan to accomplish something major that you want to accomplish. Maybe it's buying a home. Maybe it is buying a car. Maybe it is buying something that you need to start your business or help your business grow. Again, you want to make a plan, and then once you have that strategy, you implement it. So here we go. To start, take time to evaluate your needs versus your wants. Sometimes people get confused about what's really, I need this or I want this. The needs are something that you cannot live without, that you have to have. The wants are things you could have, but you really want, but you really don't have to have it to survive. Your life's not going to change if you don't have it. So you have to determine which is the most important thing to you. And then you can align your resources of your money to obtain or abstain. What things do you have to have? Well, you have to eat. So groceries, obviously. If you're living somewhere and you're not in a dorm and you're actually paying rent, that's mandatory. You've got to have clothing and shoes, and obviously water. You may want to, as college, go to additional schooling from college. You may decide to go to graduate school. And so you want to consider, how's that going to be paid for? Well, you need to start looking for your scholarships in advance, looking to see are there funding sources so that you will not be so indebted. Vacation is an important one as well. A lot of times when people vacation, they go on vacation and they come back in debt. But if they would budget for it and actually allocate funds throughout the year so that when the time comes for the vacation, they're spending only those funds, then that would enable them to not only enjoy themselves, but not return to large credit card balances or large other debts. And so what you have to establish, what are you saving for, or what would you like to save for? And if you start your process based on that, then you will get there. So setting goals. A financial goal is something you want to do or have to do, but you have to make time for it. And it really takes time, a minimal amount of time, quite honestly. But once you allocate that time to every week, again, look at your finances. Are we on track? And you can do it once a week. You can just look and say, okay, this is what's going into savings. This is what's going into checking. This is what's going into the, we had accounts as a kid that were called Christmas Club accounts with credit unions, and parents would take funds and allocate them away. So when Christmas would come, it wouldn't be such a shock to their budget because they'd already allocated the funds. It makes life so much easier when you have funds already pre-planned, predestined, so that you can get through the challenges of life. And sometimes it's not even a challenge. It's just setting a goal that you want to have or accomplish something and then going after it. The goals can be long-term or short-term. You know, something, as I mentioned, the vacation can be, you know, something that's less than a year. The long-term could be something, you know, buying a home or retirement, a house, a car, things that are what we call big ticket items, the home and the car. And you would be surprised at a simple savings measure can help you get to having a down payment for a house. Sometimes with the current marketplace, one of the largest things that people have to look at when they're buying a home is, do I have the down payment? And being a mortgage professional, that's something that we have to help look at or analyze when we're making a decision to do a loan pre-qualification or loan approval. Does the person have the money for a down payment? Well, I'm gonna share something with you. The typical down payment on a home is 3 to 5% of the sales price. So let's just use a 5%. If you were buying a $300,000 home, that would be a $15,000 down payment as a minimum if you were using the 5% model. There's some programs that will allow 3%, some will allow 3.5% for FHA. But what I'm sharing with you is those are the kind of funds that you would need to have. In addition to that, there are other costs involved in purchasing a home. So when you're looking now or looking for a strategy to save and go after that large ticket item, that's why you have to have the item in front of you. Maybe be a picture of the house to remind you that you're saving for a reason. Maybe it is a picture of a car that you're saving again for a reason. And purchasing these items, you just want to make sure that when you're buying a home or you're buying a car, most financial institutions have some limits on your debt ratio. What that means is basically that the money that you're earning versus your expenses cannot exceed a certain amount. When I say cannot exceed, your expenses cannot exceed a certain percentage of the money you bring in. So again, that's why it's so key to keep those expenses down and not carry more debt than you need to. But for goal setting, align your purpose, align your strategy, and go for it.
Awesome.
So now,
Eric, is this a good time to ask questions, just to kind of interject?
Absolutely.
Because hands have been going up and my inbox has been filling up. So I want to thank you for where you've taken us so far. And one thing I know, and I'll ask this at the end, is what are some vocabulary that you've added to your literacy around finances from this Globinar today? So the first person, I think Anissa had a question. Anissa,
Okay.
if you would unmute yourself and feel free to ask the question, and welcome. And if anyone else has questions, just raise your hand in the reaction room, just raise it and I'll call on you, or you can just unmute yourself. Go ahead, Anissa.
Hi.
Hello, Lisa.
I wanted to know what will happens if I want to start saving from now, or can I do it on my own, or I should go talk to my mom about it?
Well, you know, you're never too young to start saving. So do you currently work?
Yeah, I have this internship.
Okay.
She's an intern with us here at Global Chamber, and she's out of New York. She's one of the scholars that's a part of our internship. So she's working now.
Excellent. So with that, the first thing is the things that you can do for yourself. And when I say that is, even as a young person, there are expenses that you're encountering, whether it's going out to eat or entertainment, or there's something you're spending money on a monthly basis. You can start with your own expenses first, what your income is and what your current monthly expenses are. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't say always, it's good to consult with parents, and I'll tell you why. If you express what your goal is, here's something that some parents have done. They've placed money aside because they saw what the child was doing. They do something called matching funds. Now, every parent won't do it, but some will. But if they can see what you're demonstrating, here's a goal you have. Let's say you want to buy, I'm going to use a car as an example because that's the first thing that comes to mind. You want to buy a car, and that car typically costs X amount of money. So whatever that X is, let's say I'm just say $25,000. Well, $5,000 down payment would help lower that total balance, and so you'd have a lower monthly payment if you're going to finance it. So I would outline those goals and share your goals with your parents, that you're saving for whatever item it is. And sometimes, again, there's an accountability factor as well. Once you have spoken it, they know what you're working toward, and they'll probably remind you. Maybe you may not like it that way. They'll probably remind you that when you go to buy something, is that taking you closer to your goal or taking you further away? And those
Ooh,
are conversations that you need to have with your parents and with yourself. That sometimes it's the self conversation that will kind of reel you back in from just doing things impulsively.
mhm. Thank you for that, Eric. I want to just kind of highlight too that with our young global leaders, they're going to range in age from maybe like 17 and up. So some initially may be thinking about property, but maybe smaller goals, like maybe saving $500 for the summer, or
Right.
saving up for a deposit on a car, or to go graduate and then be able to contribute to their graduation expenses. So it may be a little bit more in that reach for them.
Absolutely. And again, saving starts small. You can start small, but you want to continue to have it grow. And if you just start putting a little money in the bank account and then watch it grow over time, every month you make that deposit. Forward. Okay.
We got hands going up, but I want to piggyback on this because this question is related to Anissa's question. Necole is asking, because tangible, when you say small, I don't know what small for you is going to be different from me. Small might be $20 a week. For somebody, it might be $200 a week. So I think her question is here, what's a good amount to start saving each month may help her. So what are your goals, Anissa? And then you will Mr. Dunlap can direct you and guide you on what's a good amount to start saving. I do know he's making an offer for those who want to have a 30-minute consultation, schedule that time afterwards, and that might be good for you to do with you and your mom and him. So I'm going to put that out there, but need tangible numbers because small for you is different for me. Tommaso is hands up, and then Stephanie's is afterwards. So Tommaso, please feel free to unmute yourself.
Thank you.
What's your question?
So I was just wondering, Eric, what are like the best ways to do a monthly budget with a bi-weekly paycheck? For example, like paying rent or streaming services.
Well, with bi-weekly, of course, that means you're actually paid. You're still being paid twice a month, and some people confuse bi-weekly versus semi-monthly. Semi-monthly, you're paid typically on the 15th and 30th. Bi-weekly, you have 26 payments, whereas bi-monthly you have 24 payments for an entire year. So with a bi-weekly payment, it does challenge you a little bit when you're trying to budget. But here's the thing. The first thing you start out with is, when are your expenses due? Well, typically rent is due at the beginning of the month. Subscription services is going to vary. It might be the first of the month, might be the beginning of the month. However, they can do it. Some credit cards even vary. Some are due at the first of the month, some do in the middle, some do at the end. And what you want to first see is based on when your money is coming in, when you're actually getting that paycheck, when are those items due? And look at those creditors. Rent you can't really change, but if certain entities, the subscription services, see if it's possible, but some of them don't tell you this, that you can schedule the payment or move it to another time, as long as you're within their billing cycle. And so I would prompt you to ask them, can you do that? The next thing is look at your total, look at your entire month of what your payouts are for any debts that you have. And once you align those debts with your total month, you want to do it on a monthly basis. And then that'll help you, even though you know that you're getting paid at this point and this point, to maybe say, for example, in the first check that I receive the month, I'm going to allocate this money in my savings account for this, or I'm not going to spend this because I know this expense is coming. And that's the way you do it with biweekly. You're going to just take look at the entire month. Don't worry about the biweekly, because you're really looking at the entire month. And you want to see when those expenses come due. Can you make any adjustments on those? And I'll be glad to work with you separately. Just give you a quick some anecdotal things as well, if you want to just.
Excellent.
go
Yeah,
We
that'd be
have.
awesome.
Go ahead, Muscle.
Oh, I just said that would be awesome.
Okay.
Awesome. We have a young global leader on, Akeem, and I would like to have him open his mic. Would ask him what his experience has been like with budgeting, finance, and if you have a question of Eric, and then Stephanie, you'll follow him, please.
Hey everyone, good morning. Yeah, so I think Eric said something really funny that I lean towards is the eating out part. As a startup, I eat out a lot, unfortunately, and I see it as a big part of the big bubble on my budget financial breakdown. But I'm trying to do better. Start doing some fasting dieting, so hopefully that can help me build up my savings. But a couple things. My experience with a startup having a company is forecasting. Forecasting is super important. Looking at the financial health of the company and making sure that we have enough reserve, what we call runway, to meet our expectations for the next couple months. And in that, I would say that it becomes a little bit nuanced and tricky. So make sure that you look to have the right people around you. So I'm blessed to have a great co-founder and then a great fractional CFO, which is a financial officer. So making sure you surround yourself with the right people, but also understanding that it is a process you have to be involved with, and not it's not a one-time thing. It's a continuous process that you pay attention to.
Right.
Yes. Well,
and that's why I liken it to exercise. We can say we desire fitness, but until we engage, it will not be accomplished.
Absolutely. I saw that muscle being built as you described that, Eric. And Akeem, I'm guilty of that too. I don't even want to say guilty. I mean, that's what I do. I enjoy eating out. So I'm going to just put that out there first.
Exactly.
It's also social and it's therapeutic, especially in a climate where we were isolated for a year or so, or 2 years even, and then coming together, really, there's a physiological benefit for doing that. Now, I know my sister is going to be speaking next, and she's going to say that I like that physiological benefit too much. So I will I'll tell you a practice I did this week just to kind of get in the line for this financial literacy and wellness. So I did go do a major grocery shop and prepared the meal for the entire week, which I don't normally do. But it has saved me, because when I would have gone out and had lunch at this time or this, I thought, oh, I've got salmon, I'm going to have that, or I have this, and my stuff is darn good. So there's an incentive. But I could even take that to the park, or take it to a Starbucks and then buy a drink there and then have my own meal. Just a thought. Stephanie, we have Stephanie Austin, who is our Executive Director for Global Chamber Austin, Texas. And I know for some of you, you're hearing the word Global Chamber for the first time, particularly someone that I've invited on. So we'll be happy to share a little bit more about that towards the end. So don't worry, we'll tell you what we do and why we do it and the impact that we're making around the globe. Welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I just want to tell Eric, you're speaking my love language. I know finances is not in the love language. They need to add that as one. And because, for me, it's just excitement. I'll sign up and listen all day and find tidbits. But what I like, and I've heard about these different organizations before, about the Mint. I just downloaded it when you told me to do it, because I meant to do it before. There were several other apps, and I do have one on my bank, but I want to try that one. Okay. And I think sometimes we don't realize how much we spend. Yeah. I enjoy eating out. However, it's with a limit and with a budget. And even more so now, I tell people who have enjoyed eating out that definitely have a budget, but there's so many other things like Groupons. I live for Groupon. I'll go to Groupon, and it may not be the restaurant that you want. So you have to be open to say, hey, there's a Groupon out there, buy one, get one free, or you get a free meal. And so you don't have to eliminate it completely. There's some options out there that you can utilize, different coupons and Groupons, but I always recommend if you can cook at home. I've learned to really, really enjoy more so eating at home over these past several months. And which I've always did, but you know, it's like now I want home cooking. Restaurants don't give me what I need or what I want. I really love the fact that you all put this program on, because many times young people don't have the example from their parents at all how to save, or the example that they have is that they see that the parent doesn't have. So I think this is great. I think this is, you all need to look at continue doing something, and, you know, probably even specialize just for the youth. How can they do it? And so my mindset is that I have a savings account, then I have another account that's I never touch. It's like if someone say you have any money, no, I don't have it. I never touch it, because that's like for a true dire emergency that I gotta hop on the plane and go because something's going on with my family members. So thank you guys for this opportunity. As I mentioned, this is my 6th love language. Love finance.
And you know what, I like the way you expressed it. You know, you make it in practical terms. And just like this slide has here, if you're trying to save, do auto draft, do direct deposit. Most employers pay with direct deposit. You can have funds allocated to your savings account. You can have funds allocated to your checking account. Take a portion of your money that you earn and pay yourself. When you pay yourself, you're making a deposit into your savings. And you know that those expenses are there, but if you can put money in your savings, that's when you're rewarding yourself.
Absolutely.
And a savings without a debit card. No
There
debit
you go.
card.
Now that's key. That's right.
No debit card on your savings.
We're going to have you do the next one of the next financial, maybe in conjunction with Eric and Necole, Stephanie, because I know this is absolutely your lane.
Yes.
And thank you for your comments here. I want to share a couple of things before I entertain the last few questions. And then Eric, if you would be prepared to share your link on how they can do the 30-minute consultation with you for free. So for those who are our young global leaders, let's say 17, 18, 19, and you may not have an account already, Eric mentioned two things. He mentioned a Christmas account, those still exist at credit unions. He also some credit unions, they have a program for young leaders. So one of our nephews, I opened up an account with him at a credit union, and it was attached to mine, but he kind of manages it. And I help a little bit when I see he's kind of needing a little bit extra funds. I just move him over. But that's something you can look into, Anissa, as you're going to talk with your mom and then have a consultation with Mr. Eric here. And Necole, our Deputy Director for Atlanta as well. And she's also, I'm going to let her speak for herself. Go ahead, Necole.
Eric, great job. Thank you so much. And I'm sorry I can't have my camera on. I am at the job, so I apologize for that. But just to piggy back off what a lot that has been said today, I work for JP Morgan, and a lot of products that we offer here are geared toward college students or geared toward high school students. And one of the things that I love about the high school checking account, like Dana mentioned, it is linked to the parent's account. And so when you graduate, then you can convert it to a college account, but it does have automatic savings. And so a lot of what you earn can, you can online account, log in, you can choose how much amount that you want transferred automatically to your savings account. And like Stephanie mentioned, you can opt out of having a debit card linked to that particular account. And so the beautiful thing about it, we can later on talk about different wealth building strategies. So once you start saving initially for those emergencies and start setting a budget, you can even start thinking about saving for your retirement future, even at 18 years old. And so a lot of the banking institutions, we do have something here at Chase called Chase Credit Journey, which will allow you to see, as Eric mentioned, how much you're spending each month. You can track your spending, you can track your saving, and also see your credit score. So Eric, great job. And we look forward to hearing a lot more.
All right. Well, Dana, I do want to do something while you are queuing up possibly the next question, I do want to advance the slides because
Go
here
ahead.
we talked about goals and setting goals. Credit. I have to touch on credit, and I can
Yes.
never say enough about credit and the importance of it. First, did you know that you can receive a free annual credit report? You can get a free annual credit report from annualcreditreport.com, and you can receive all 3 repositories on that. Why is that important? Because when you apply for a loan or you apply for any type of financing, you're going to pull your credit and see what your credit rating is. You have 3 repositories: Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. You can also request a direct credit report that's also free directly from Equifax and Experian. TransUnion, unfortunately, does not offer a free credit report online. They will give you a credit report, but they're kind of old school and they will actually do some mailing. Knowing what's on your credit report is essential. By knowing, I'm saying knowing your credit score, for example. If you don't know what your credit score is going to be the item that everyone makes a lending decision when they decide if they're going to loan you money or not. How much is your interest rate? How do you establish credit? Well, right now, depending on your age, you may not have had a chance to establish credit yet. But even if you are a person that's older and is looking at establishing credit, what you want to do, if you don't have any credit established, you can always try with initially what's called a secured credit card. You go into your banking institution or credit union, and you can actually borrow against your own money. So what in essence you would do is, let's say you have $500. Well, you give that $500 pledged against your deposit, and they will basically say, okay, you can use this credit card. What that's doing is building credit. Now, it's important to build credit, but it's even more important to maintain the credit once you're given it. So what you want to do is make sure you pay all of your bills ahead of schedule. Not trying to pay them just on time, but pay them a few days ahead. That way, if there's any type of computer glitch or anything else, your credit score will not be impacted. So what happens? You need to know what impacts your credit. Paying it on time, number one. This chart gives you, and we'll share this deck with you guys, what items impact you the greatest. Payment history, that's why you have to pay on time. Avoid using more credit than you need. Don't just run up your credit card bill just because you have a credit card. Just because it has room on the limit doesn't mean that you need to max that out. That will hurt your credit score. Why does this matter? You don't want to pay high interest rates or higher than you have to. So again, I challenge all of you that are of age to get your credit report. Work on reducing the amount you owe. And that's what the budgeting is for. And developing, really healthy credit habits, but just healthy financial habits.
Excellent. Let me interject real quick, Eric, because we've got to finish 2 minutes early. We have another Globinar directly behind that. So as he mentioned, if you want the slide deck, please complete the e-card that I put in the chat room. It just captures your information on a form and we can send it to you. Likewise, if you're interested in the 30-minute consultation, let us know. You can make that in the chat room. Eric, we got one other intern that has the question and a new guest of mine that has a question. Do you want to take it at this point?
I'll take any questions. Just come on with them.
Okay. Luis is one of our interns. He's connected with Global Chamber Austin, Texas, with Stephanie. Luis, welcome. And please let us know what your question is or comment.
Yeah, I want to ask, if I ask for a credit report, would that affect my credit? Because I know some credit reports affect your credit.
Well, if you get the free credit reports, they do not have the impact as if someone was inquiring for a loan. Whenever you credit report is pulled for a loan, automobile, mortgage, other types of loans, it's going to impact your credit. Now, the mortgage credit pool is going to be the greatest impact because it's a hard pool. But you'll also be impacted if you're attempting to get an auto loan or other types of loans. But just getting a credit report itself does not impact your credit score.
Okay. Thank you for that. And then one final question, Caleb, I saw you had your hand raised a while ago. Can we entertain that question? And in the meantime, if you guys can look at the slides, and if you have a comment on that, we can raise that as a question as we move towards our end.
Just wanted to give some quick positive feedback. To piggyback off of Ms. Austin, I'm a father's rights advocate, mother's rights advocate in the city of Atlanta, co-parenting expert, have custody of my son, been raising him since 5 days old. She mentioned something about target audience. And I would say include that into it, because as a full custody father, helping men properly co-parent, I find that fathers tend to be more willing to cut certain things off in order to be in the lives of their kids, minus men that don't have kids. So that's a demographic that financial literacy, I actually promote that a lot. Because when I seen the slides showing the extracurricular activities, I tell men a lot of times, do not go out to eat, cook with your kids. You know, instead, spend a quality time, memorable time. You know, and they started to do that. I myself, I'm not with the mother of my child, but I have a special savings for her if she gets into trouble or gets into a situation. So I'm teaching men to go beyond to save for their family.
Yeah.
You know, and as a co-parenting expert, your child is your family. The mother of your child is your family. So I would say add some type of demographic that pertains to fathers, because fathers need to learn that the way they move is different than a non-father. That's what I want to say.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing that. That those are important areas, and I'll definitely move to expand on those as I continue in the financial literacy.
Yes. Thank you for your comment, Caleb. Thank each of you for attending. I know there's going to be a series of other questions because this topic we benefit from. We want to teach our younger so they can learn sooner than we did. And as we're continuing to learn ourselves and strengthen our financial muscle, I want to just mention, as I said earlier on, I was going to share with you about Global Chamber. Global Chamber is the only chamber that is global in 525 metros around the world. Who do we cater to? Who's our target audience? CEOs, business owners, entrepreneurs, dignitaries doing international business, trade, import, export, services, finances. And we also incorporate an artificial intelligence component to how and what we do. We have our founder and CEO, Doug Brunke, and our headquarters is out of Phoenix, Arizona. And members that are part of Global Chamber get the benefits for being a part of Globinars such as these and many others. We have about 8 Globinars today, one which we're hopping onto right after this. Women in, what's the title of it, Steph? Women in business, I think it is, women in business.
Yeah.
Incredible group. And then there's several other Globinars today. We have our Global Chamber Advisory Board meeting at 6 p.m., which members are a part of it, but we also invite guests. So I'm putting the link at the bottom here. If you want to be a part of that at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, sign up for it. We welcome you. And Eric, we're going to have to thank you, and we're going to get this information to Eric so that he can send you the slide deck. Clearly, we're going to have a part 2. I don't know if you want to do it. I don't know if you want to do it next month, because with the Young Global Leaders, there is a topic every month. And I do know that for next month, that slot is open. So if you want to do a part 2 and then still, follow up those with a 30-minute consultation in between, I think it would be a good way to have a continuity.
I would love that. I would love that myself.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's make it happen.
We're going to have Stephanie, Eric, and should Nicole's schedule permit, because she was going to be more intricately involved in this one, you're welcome. And one final thing. So with Global Chamber Atlanta, we support organizations that line up with our strategy and strategic goals for the year. And the Floyd Turner Foundation, which is the foundation for Necole Turner, you heard her speak moments ago, and Felix Turner, that supports college students and financial literacy. So we support organizations that support our strategic goal. So look into that if you haven't, the Floyd Turner Foundation. And thank each of you. It's 11 o'clock. We hate to go, but guess what?
I know. We have fun.
Next month, we're going to be back. We're going to let Cesar know that Stephanie, Eric, and potentially Necole will have that slot. So mark your calendars. If you haven't joined Global Chamber and you want to, go to globalchamber.org, hit join. It's as simple as that. What you get is a return on your investment that you cannot even put a price on. Right. I mean, we should be giving them more money for what they give. Over 600 Globinars you have access to a year, and even meetups. It's off the chain. Thank you, our interns, for raising your questions. We're so delighted to have you on, and we provide opportunities for our interns to not just learn on the job, or they're doing a task, but to be a part of this. They will be a part of our Young Global Leader Tribe. Welcome. Go and be global and unstoppable. We'll see you guys at the next Globinar, hopefully tonight. Thank
Great
you.
job, great job, Eric. Great
Everybody have
job,
a good day.
Dana. Great job.
Fantastic. Thank you.